Chapter 5, Leprechauns in Late Winter. "Hello, Mary," said Augusta. She kissed the old woman on her wrinkled cheek. With the firelight on her face, Mary seemed to glow. Her warm, snug cottage was the opposite of the big house. It smelled of damp leaves and moss, bread, and chocolate. Firelight danced on the earthen floor and stone walls. Rain dripped through the roof, pinging into the couple of tin buckets. "And who do we have here, Miss Augusta?" Mary asked. "Two poor children from town," said Augusta. "I want you to tell them about me, how I truly love the poor and I try to help them." Mary smiled. "Please sit down first," she said. Jack and Annie and Augusta sat down on 3 rickety wooden chairs. "Would you children like some hot cocoa?" Mary asked. Jack and Annie nodded eagerly. "Yes, please, Mary," said Augusta. "But would you tell them?" "Yes, I will tell them all about you," said Mary. She picked up a pot sitting on the hearth. She poured steaming cocoa into 3 mugs and handed them to Jack, Annie, and Augusta. The cocoa smelled delicious. Jack took a sip and licked his lips. "Yum," he said. His insides felt warm for the first time all day. "Now, Mary," asked Augusta. "In time, my child," Mary said to Augusta. "Tell me, what have you been doing today?" "I delivered cakes to town," Augusta said proudly. "Then I found these poor children in our kitchen looking for work. I tried to help them, but they say I'm snobby. I brought them here so you could tell them the truth about me." "Ah, I see, Miss Augusta. How did you try to help them?" said Mary. "I've tried to discover what they are good for," said Augusta, "but it appears they are good for nothing." "Really?" Mary fixed her twinkling eyes on Jack and Annie. "Well, let us start with this. Children, tell me something you like to do. No, wait. What do you love to do?" "Ah, well, I love to read," said Jack. "And write," said Annie. "Read and write?" said Augusta. "I don't think so." Mary ignored Augusta and kept looking at Jack and Annie. "What do you like to read and write?" asked Mary. "Facts mostly," said Jack. "True stories." "Jack writes facts down all the time," said Annie. "Honestly, Mary," said Augusta, "soon they'll be telling you that they are actors too and have performed in a play by William Shakespeare. Can we talk about me now?" "Actually, that's true," Jack said to Mary. "We were in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Annie and I were fairies. I had stage fright, but William Shakespeare himself," said Annie. "He helped me get over it," said Jack. He looked straight at Augusta. Augusta rolled her eyes. "Will is so nice," said Annie. "And smart," said Jack. "Of course he was," said Mary. "You can tell from all his stories." "Oh, please stop. Don't tell Mary those ridiculous things," Augusta said. "What about me, Mary?" "Wait, child. I have a question for them," Mary said. She leaned forward and spoke in a whisper. "Where is Summer? Can you answer me that?" Mary's question doesn't make sense, Jack thought. "I don't know. Do you know where Summer is, Mary?" asked Annie. "Summer is hiding with the she," said Mary, laughing. "The she? What's that?" said Annie. "Surely you must know the she," said Mary. "That's what the Irish call our fairies. In the winter, the she steal all the warmth and sunshine, leaving us to suffer with the cold and rain." Annie laughed too. "So you've played the parts of fairies in the play by Shakespeare," said Mary. "They're just like our she. Have you seen the she here in Ireland?" "Mary," Augusta said impatiently. "Not yet," said Annie. "That's a shame," said Mary. I've seen them. This is a true story." She looked at Jack and smiled. "With facts. You might want to write them down." "Oh, sure," said Jack. He pulled his notebook and pencil out of his pocket. Augusta looked surprised. Mary leaned close to Jack and Annie again. Her eyes were shining and her voice was hushed. "One day, long ago, a lonely girl took a walk in an old forest," said Mary. All was still until the joyful music began coming from the hidden world. Jack loved Mary's way of telling the story. He wrote down, "Old forest, all still, joyful music, hidden world." Augusta frowned. "So I guess you can write," she muttered. Suddenly, there came a spinning wind, said Mary, and a cloud so bright, and a beam of light poured over a river. Jack quickly wrote, "Spinning wind, bright cloud, beam of light, river." "Then they came, rumbling and thundering," exclaimed Mary. "Mary," said Augusta. She sounded impatient, but Mary kept talking. "Some with wings, some on horses of white, queens and kings, in robes and gowns and the colors of summer, fall, winter, and spring." Jack wrote, "Some wings, white horses, queens, kings." "They galloped in a circle, a binding swirl," said Mary. "They swept up the lonely girl and carried her across the river to the secret hollow hill. Had she gone inside, she would have become very small and seen many wondrous sights." Jack wrote, "Take lonely girl, hollow hill of she, wondrous sights." Jack looked up from his notebook, waiting for Mary to go on. When she spoke again, her voice was very soft, but the girl grew afraid and ran home instead. Mary sat back in the chair and closed her eyes. The only sound in the cottage was the crackling of the fire and the pinging of the rain into the tin buckets. "Mary," Annie said softly, "are you the girl in the story?" Mary opened her eyes. "I will never tell," she said. "Oh, Mary," said Augusta, "such tales." She turned to Jack and Annie. "Mary still believes in the impossible." "Aye, I do. I surely do," said Mary. "Every night I leave a bit of milk on my windowsill for the she. I leave crumbs at my door. They eat them too." "Mary, the birds eat the crumbs," said Augusta. "Yes, the birds are hungry also," said Mary, "but the she pick over the crumbs first. At twilight, they steal across the river from the hidden hollow hills. Just ask the old fishermen of country Galloway. Ask the farmers and the nursemaids." Augusta shook her head sadly. "Mary, only simple-minded folk still believe in such things," she said. "Educated people know what is true and what is not true." "No, child," said Mary. "They only know what they think is true." Augusta straightened her shoulders. "Well, we should be going now, Mary," she said. "So could you please tell these children the truth about me now?" "Yes," said Mary. She turned to Jack and Annie. "Do these children have names?" Jack smiled. This was the first time today anyone had asked their names. "Yes, our names are Jack and Annie," said Annie. "Well, Jack and Annie, thank you for coming to visit me today. I can tell you that you are very special," said Mary. "What about me, Mary?" Augusta asked. "Am I special?" "Yes, child, you are," said Mary. She turned to Jack and Annie. "Augusta is special too, but in a different way." "How am I different, Mary?" asked Augusta. "You try very, very hard to be good, and you are very smart, but you—" Mary stopped. "But what, Mary? What?" said Augusta. "You are not happy," said Mary, "and that breaks my heart." Augusta's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Augusta, don't cry," said Annie. She reached out to take Augusta's hand, but the girl stepped back. Augusta wiped her eyes. "That's silly. I'm happy enough. I know I've never seen the she, and I never will, but I don't care anymore. And if you like these miserable children more than me, Mary, well, that's fine." Augusta ran to the door and opened it. The damp air swept inside as she rushed out the cottage. Through the open doorway, Jack and Annie could see Augusta's red cape flying behind her. And that is the end of chapter 5.